Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to excel and succeed? We got a guest for you. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. As always, I am here with your host, Nick Smith. I am Ryan Morris. If you haven't liked or subscribed to our YouTube page, go ahead and do it. Wake Up with Giants TV. Hit the alert button, too, so you can get notified when we go live and add new content. If you haven't joined a tribe of Giants on Facebook, go ahead and do that, too. We've got a great community of people, like-minded people that are there to support, encourage, share their goals, visions, dreams, and some beautiful stuff and magic is being created in that group. If you haven't bought the book, The Giants and the Smalls, it's a beautiful book. Go over to giantsandsmalls.com. Check that out. It's written by Nicholas.
Kind of see-through.
Yeah, see-through book right there. It's in our backgrounds as well.
Yeah.
And then if you like it, if you like things that we do, pass it along, share it. We'd appreciate it, and other people in your life will appreciate it too. I'm so excited for today's show. This is a powerful. We were talking just before the show, and if that precursor is anything like this show is going to go, which I know it is, it's going to be powerful. You're going to want to stick around for this, so buckle up. Nick, you want to introduce our guest?
I do. Yeah, we are going to create the most miraculous show you've ever seen with Dr. Will Moreland. So Dr. Will is a military veteran turned entrepreneur. He's the founder of several successful companies. He's traveled the world to impact, inspire, and influence leaders at all levels. So as a professional speaker and business coach, Dr. Will has been named a top speaker in America and named Business Person of the Year by community organizations 5 times. So he's a respected global leader and author of over 50 books. I'm on 4. Man, I got some catching up to do. He's worked with organizations. Yeah, go ahead.
You're good. I was just gonna say, where you been? What have you been doing?
Yeah, I got to catch up to Dr. Will.
You can.
So he's worked with organizations, associations, and governments in over 50 countries on 5 continents. He's the founder of Genius Speakers Academy. He supports hundreds of speakers each year to build their brand, business, and bank account. And his passion to see individuals excel and succeed in life and business is unmatched. Dr. Will, welcome to the show.
Man, appreciate you guys for having me with the Giants, man. I'm super excited to be here and ready to create some magic with you guys.
Yeah, we are going to dive into your journey because that's really what it's about, is showing people that there's so many ways to become a giant. There's not just one path. And so we want to start kind of going back in time to your history, going to your family life. What was it like growing up? What were your parents like? Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm asked that question quite often, and over the years that answer has kind of evolved. But I'm originally from a little city called Compton, California. Don't know if anybody's familiar with Compton, California, but when I grew up there back in the early '80s, Compton was said to be the worst city in America. So if you can kind of think about how many states we have, and if you just said there's 50 states and 50 cities in
cities, man.
Exactly. So if you can imagine what it's like to pinpoint this area as
we're number one.
Worst,
you were number one.
We were number one, right? And but at the same time, inside of this environment was this place that I call home. I was raised by my grandmother. And so inside my home, I had love, I had structure. I had examples of what great humans look like inside of my grandmother. But when I stepped outside the door, it was all of this calamity. It was all of this strife. It was all of, gangs and all that type of stuff. So it created this type of, paradox, like, wow, what is that saying? It was the best of times and the worst of times. Yeah. And so, as most of us do, we tend to lean toward the negative. And so that's what I did. But in my later years now, I'm realizing that there was a lot of amazing things going on, a lot of positive things going on. The community that I lived in, the block that I lived in, was filled with some amazing people. They're people that I literally still go back today to visit on the street that I grew up in, because they were just amazing, amazing people. But to push the story along, being in this environment, it was very challenging. I found myself ending up in trouble, ended up being in gangs, ended up being a drug dealer for a time period in my life, got arrested several times. And the last time I got arrested, I was in front of the judge, and he said, listen, young man, you're headed nowhere fast. You're headed nowhere fast. And he says, if I sentence you today, you're 18 years old, this would mess up the rest of your life. So what I want you to do is leave my court, and I want you to return to my court in 2 weeks. And I need you to tell me what you're going to do with your life. And Nick and Ryan, up until this point, no one had ever
home
asked
with homework. That's awesome.
He sent me home with homework. But up until this point, no one had ever asked me what I wanted my life to become. Everyone told me that I was either going to be dead by the age of 18 or in jail. And words, you guys know this, words are powerful. I was living up to those words that was spoken into my life. And so I was doing everything I could do to make everybody true, right? You said I was going to be dead. You said I was going to be in jail. You're absolutely right. And so about 3 days before I'm to return to the judge, I'm walking in the mall. I'll never forget, just kind of milling around. And a gentleman by the name of Corey comes up to me and he says, hey, you ever thought about joining the United States Army? And up until that point, you know, I had never thought about that. People in my neighborhood, we don't go to the military. But I knew in that moment, I said, you know what? I know the judge would go for this. If I told him I was going to the military, that would keep me out of jail.
Wow.
And so I told Corey, yeah, man, let's go. And he was stunned. He looked at me. He didn't know what to do, because afterwards he told me, he's like, man, I walk in this mall every day for the last year and I haven't got anybody to join the Army. But this day I said, come on, man, let's go. And that kind of started my journey to transformation. I joined the United States Army, which I say today was one of the best choices in my life, even not even knowing it was going to be one of the best choices in my life. And so I get into the United States Army. I start surrounding myself with other great individuals, mentors, and that's kind of where my life really started to take off. I got a real great mentor in the military, Command Sergeant Major Babs. He started putting the pressure on me to really discover who I could really be, and that's when I got involved in personal development, and everything just started taking off from there. When I got involved in personal development and realized that my mistakes and my problems and my obstacles of the past were not a prison for me. They were just a platform for me to become a better individual. That's when I took off, man.
Wow, you're hitting at some points I want to just bring in, right? So the idea of your past being a platform, your past is a platform. It's not a prison sentence. You know,
it's just so a platform, man.
So many of us will go in there and we'll say, yeah, well, I can't because I was raised this way. And here you are, you're raised in the tale of one city. You know, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. You go one city, Compton, probably rated the worst city in the United States when you're being raised. And you chose to use it as a platform. Now, you didn't choose that in the beginning. You went down a path just like you had been predicted to go down. But then there was a point you stopped letting other people predict your path, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it is really, there's a proverb that says, where there is no vision, people cast off restraint. And that's exactly what happened. I didn't have a vision for my life. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I wanted to become. And so when you don't know who you want to become, when you don't know who you are, then anyone can tell you who you are and what you should be doing. But the moment I got that vision, I started to envision myself inside. I started to see myself not as a gangbanger, not as a drug dealer, not as this helpless and individual that was, you know, raised by a single mother. All these labels that we tend to gravitate to, those were just, you know, pages in my story. They weren't even the whole chapter. They were just pages in the story, but I had the power to change, to turn the page. And many times we think that we have to keep rereading the same page. I'm born in Compton, single mother, gangbanger, drug dealer, gonna die at 18, gonna be in jail. And we just keep reading that story, that page over and over and over. And we never realize that we have the power to turn the page. Let's see what's on the next page. The next page was the Army. The next page was personal development. The next page was getting my degree. The next page was getting married. The next page, the next page, the next page. And we're still writing, right? We're still writing this book, but most of us get stuck on this one page. And for the rest of our life, we tend to just keep reading that one page.
Amazing.
I'm in sales, and I went through this slump this last little bit. Like there was this period where I was like, man, what's wrong with me? Like, and then I'm like, I just kept thinking in my mind, right? I'm not doing great. I'm lousy. This isn't working. All those things, right? And then I started shifting and saying, no, I can change tomorrow. Then the neat thing is that somebody could walk in, the next customer, and everything could shift. So that's what's going to happen. So I just started saying, the next customer is a buyer. The next customer is a buyer. The next customer, boom, boom, boom. Changing my mentality. I'm a great salesperson. I'm a great person. I'm worthy. And whammo, it shifted. And I turned the page. Like that concept right there, just turn the page, is awesome to me. So thank you for that. That was just something I just nailed it. Hit home for me right now.
Too, you leave the pages in the past. You're not, I mean, they're there. The pages are there. They were a part of your history, but you're not going back and revisiting and just living in that page like you're talking about. You're writing a new book.
Yeah, and instantly you can just make that choice. You don't have to wait. You could, but you could just keep living the same history over and over and over again and getting the same results. Or, like you said, Dr. Will, just turn the page.
Guys, one of the things that I've discovered is we create our past in the present. And what I mean by that is we get to determine what the past meant. So I'll give you an example. Person gets divorced. They get to bring into the future and to the present what that event was. For some people, they say, man, that was the worst time of my life. To someone else, it says, that's the day I discovered my freedom. It's the same event, but we get to create our past. We get to say what that was. I get to say what growing up in Compton was like. I could say, oh my God, it was the worst city in America. Or I could say, this is the place where I was introduced to one of the most amazing women in my life, my grandmother. And she was, this amazing. I can focus on that, or I can focus on all the negatives. And so we get to create in our present what our past really means to us. And we can determine that it's going to empower us, or we can determine that it's going to imprison us. And for most people, sadly, it imprisons them and they get stuck right there. My mom didn't love me. My dad, wasn't there. My teacher said I was stupid. And so some people are 40 and 50 years old, but they're living on their 5th grade page. They're living on their 5-year-old page. They're living on that page where maybe they got molested, maybe they got raped, maybe some tragic event. They're still on that page, but there's still, 1,000 other pages for them to read, but they just won't turn the page.
Yeah, you know what it reminds me of? The Never-Ending Story. Have you seen that?
Yeah, of course.
He's reading the book and he doesn't want to go to the next page because it's scary. He's like stuck right there. I find myself doing that. The truth is, you look on the outside and you see a person, you think, man, they're confident. They got some confidence. And then inside of that container called a human, there's this other story going on. So like the view coming from the inside out doesn't feel that way. Like for me, there are times where I feel insecurity and lack of confidence. And on the outside, nobody would ever know. But on the inside, it's like it just kind of bleeds through in the way that I show up in the world. It's a choice of going from empowering to imprisoning. And I love that because it's all inside of this container.
It's the weirdest thing, right? success inside itself can become a prison, right? You get a great run, like Ryan was just talking about. You get a great run, right? You get 25 sales in a row, but then you start telling yourself, I'm never going to be able to do that. I'm never going to be able to live up to that again. Oh, I won salesman of the month. I won salesman of the year. Where do I go from here? And so our success can play as a prison. I fell to that as well. I've done so many amazing things, early on. And then I'm like, man, is the second half going to be better than the first half? Do I have anything else to live forward to? We see this happen a lot with athletes and entertainers and actors and actresses. They have this, Tom Brady. I remember Tom saying after he had won his third Super Bowl, he was like, is this it? Is this what's going on? I played my whole life to get to this level. Is this all that's there? And he fell into this depression. And so he had to find another reason. He had to find other parts of the game that he enjoyed. We saw that happen to Michael Jordan. He wins 3 championships, but then his dad dies. And now he's like, I don't want to play basketball again. The challenge, the challenge is not there anymore. But then he goes to play baseball, didn't have success over there. But then that created the failure in baseball, created the hunger again to come back in basketball. And then he won 3 more championships, right? And so all of us kind of go through
the
that.
Utah Jazz's chagrin.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry to bring that up, Ryan. That was a bad example, right?
First the
2
Suns,
times. Right.
now Michael Jordan, just salt in the wound.
Right. Yeah. I hate to bring that up, but yeah. So we all go through these times, and that's why a community like the Giant community is so important, because we get on this island. And we think that we're all by ourselves. And so I need to hear, oh, Nick, you go through this too? Oh, Ryan, you go through this too? Okay, it's just not me. Okay, it's all of us. Oh, this is a part of life. Oh, this is a part of the success journey. Now I know that it's normal, right? I tell my clients all the time, it's like when you go to the dentist and the dentist is getting ready to work on your tooth, they're getting ready to shoot this Novocaine inside your mouth. And the thing that the dentist will tell you, she'll say, you're going to feel a little pressure. You're going to feel a little pressure. And the reason why she says that is because she doesn't want you to be caught off guard and jump in the seat, because if you jump in the seat, she could then put that needle in the wrong place and cause more damage. The same thing with
your cheek or something.
Yeah, I've pictured it going right into my spine, like
exactly, right. And so that's what. So she tells you this to warn you. And the same thing is about success. I call it, the side effects of success, especially for individuals that are watching this. We have big visions, we have big goals, and so we're never satisfied with where we are, because where we are is not the vision. And so it's hard for us to appreciate the moment. It's hard to appreciate the moments. It's hard to say, Ryan, you had a kick-ass week this week, because in your mind, you're trying to have a kick-ass year. So it's hard to appreciate the day. It's hard to appreciate the week, because we have these lofty goals. And so when we have the side effects of what I call success, the depression, the, feeling unworthy, the feeling that you're not going to make it, those are just the side effects. But guess what? You need to know that's normal. And that lets me know, oh, okay, I'm on the right track now. I'm not on the wrong track. I'm on the right track if I'm feeling this way.
This is incredible. Like, one of the things that we love about this show is that there are giants from all backgrounds, all kinds of histories, all kinds of outcomes, and each of them has a journey that's unique, but many of them say that they struggle, they still go through things, they work through it. And that's important to hear, because the giant's journey, you get on it, it's not like it's just an easy ride. Oh, I decided to be a giant, now I'm a giant, there's nothing else to do. I had a friend that he built up a global community on YouTube, 13 million subscribers. And he was successful in that. And he said, I don't feel fulfilled anymore. I reached a purpose here. What's my next purpose? And you think about that, is there's one of the things about life, and maybe you can go into this a little bit, is that it's about purpose. Like, it's about having a place, the word purpose, I've said this in past shows, means to move forward to a place where you can pause. That's what the word means. And so, but there's not just one. And I think we get in our mind that there's one purpose for life. You get Michael Jordan, who had a purpose to become the best basketball player in the NBA. And then he finishes that. and he goes into baseball. He's terrible at it, right? So he's got a new purpose of discovering his new purpose. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I experienced this, and I call it my clarity. I call it my clarity journey. When I was 35 years old, I woke up one morning and I was looking in the mirror, and I really didn't know who was looking back at me. I could reckon it was me, but I didn't know per se who was looking back at me. I knew all the labels I had: Dr. Will, father, husband, brother, friend, mentor, business executive. I knew all these labels, but I did not know for sure who I was. I did not know who I was. I didn't know at the core who I was. I didn't know if I liked rap music because I grew up in Compton and right down the street was Dr. Dre and Eazy-E and Snoop, and I saw these individuals. I didn't know if I liked opera. I didn't know if I liked rock and roll. I didn't know if I was so influenced by my environment, that's why I like this music. I didn't know if I liked fried chicken or if I just liked it because that's what grandma cooked every Sunday. I did not know. Didn't know if I liked jet skis, camping, water, polo, any of these things, right? So what I did was I went on what I call this clarity journey, where I was going to experience as many things as possible. So Nick, when you said, Will, do you want to go skiing? I could give you an honest answer. Nick, I would love to, or Nick, skiing's not my thing. If Ryan said, Will, do you want to come fishing with me? I can honestly say, man, fishing is not my thing, or man, I would love to. If Nick, you offered me some escargot, I could honestly say, man, escargot is not my thing, or escargot is my thing. And so at the conclusion of this journey that I call my clarity journey, I came up with this philosophy that I called living from your core, CORE. And core it's an acronym that stands for clarity, opportunities, relationship, and experiences. And so all of us in this journey at different points, we need to come to points of clarity. What makes me happy now? I know what made me happy then, but what's making me happy now? Because once again, a lot of times we create lifestyles that create prisons because, oh, I'm the CEO, I built this company. I would look like a fool if I walked away. But if it's not making me happy, like you were just saying, Nick, this guy builds this community of 13 million, right? All of us probably listening right now would die for that. Oh, 13 million people, that's the mecca of social media success. But he says he wasn't fulfilled. And I knew exactly what he's talking about because at this point, I was successful. You're looking on the outside, I have all the trappings, I have the house, I have the luxury cars, but on the inside, I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't miserable, but it wasn't like I jumped out of the bed every morning to say, this is the life I get to live. And so after, going on this clarity journey and coming up with this philosophy of living from your core, we get real clear. We get real clear on what we want to do. And then we search out opportunities that help us live out that clarity. And then we start looking at our relationships. What relationships are going to fulfill us in this season of our life? And then we're always asking the question, man, how do we want to experience this life? This is an amazing, we talked a little bit about this before we got on live. This is an amazing world. I've had the opportunity to travel to over 50 different countries. I've lived in 5 different countries. People are amazing. This universe is amazing. But if you lock yourself, on this one little island, one of the things that I try not to do is say something is my favorite, right? My favorite ice cream. Because guess what? Every time I go to the restaurant, I'm just going to order the same ice cream. I'm going to order the same meal every time. I'm going to go to the same restaurant. There's a billion different flavors, right? But we're choosing out of the 5 that we've experienced. And so I try to expose myself to all different types of things so I can now say, oh man, I enjoy this. I enjoy this. I enjoy this.
Yeah. Yeah. That is cool. That's fun. I'm 46 and I get a chance to go on a clarity journey. And, in a new way, I got divorced about 2 years ago. And part of that was that story that kept coming up is like, what story do I want to tell? The story of failure or the story of opportunity? And now even going beyond that, I'm friends with my ex now, and you know, things are pretty good there, but I have this opportunity to really define me. Like, what do I like? You know, I like all kinds of music. So to say, like you say, a favorite, I can't do it. You know, all kinds of foods. I love all kinds of foods. You know, people, differences in people. There's all kinds of people in this world. To have a favorite type of person, I can't do it. You know, I enjoy conversations with Dr. Will Moreland as much as I do anybody else. You know, the guy emptying the trash at my work or whatever. You know, it's like, man, there's a beautiful human right there. Like, to pick a favorite, right, really boxes you in. And
It really does. Like, what's your favorite color? My favorite color is red. So then everything in your space becomes red. All my t-shirts are red.
yeah,
All my shoes are red, right? And
yeah,
so it's like imagine a one colored rainbow, right? How amazing would a one colored rainbow be, right? And you just mentioned your divorce, like going back to the language that we use about events in our life. So
yeah,
that relationship came to not an end, but it came to completion. And
yeah,
so we've
yeah.
completed our journey together. That
Hmm.
doesn't have to be negative. We've just completed our journey together. Now, we
Wow, wow,
imagined and we thought that maybe the journey was going to go another 30, 40 years, but no, it just came to completion. And I'm going
wow.
to appreciate what we created in our time together. So I don't have to think about, because all parts of it wasn't bad, right? But that's what we tend to look. Oh no, it came to completion. Maybe I grew in a different direction. Maybe she grew in a different direction. But what
Beautiful.
did we
Yeah.
create inside of this opportunity? We maybe created some beautiful kids. We maybe created some beautiful memories. I don't have to go tear up the pictures to Hawaii. I don't have to go tear up the pictures to Dubai, right? I can keep those pictures, right? I don't
I've
have
got
to,
them all in a box. Yeah, yeah. Bring it out.
we don't have to close off that part of my life. I don't know how
Right.
long you're married, but you know how difficult that is to try to forget 10, 15, 8 years of your life. I'm not going to talk about that 8 years of my, what are you talking about? How do you go from, 25, then blackout years, and then I pick back up at 46? You can't, you got to
It's,
incorporate that, but you have to change the
wow,
language
wow.
about how you think about that relationship.
I got to write this down. So incorporate your completions, right? In a way, it's
Yeah.
like one part of your life is finished out.
Yeah.
The idea of perfection, you know, the word perfection, perfecere, means to perform and to complete, right? And so you're doing it perfectly if you're doing it and finishing it, right? And so in a way, that divorce was perfection because we had 17 years together, and then it was complete. We reached completion in that phase. And now we're both moving on. We're different people, different directions. We're friendly. We got 4 beautiful kids. And so there's that completion. And I love that perspective because the idea is around failure. Like, if it ends, it's a failure. Nah, it's just, we're just in different directions. That's it. We're complete in that thing.
Right. And that's you for 17 years, you're totally different than you were when you were
Oh
30,
man.
right? You're
Oh
a
yeah.
total different individual. And I tell people this all the time. Whenever you decide to date someone, marry someone, you're dating and marrying them at the level you are at that point in time.
Hmm.
Doesn't
Hmm.
mean you're going to be that same individual 20 years from now, right? I tell people all the time, it takes about literally 20 years to calibrate a marriage, 20 years to calibrate a marriage. And usually this is at the point of decision where you decide, man, if I want to put that other 40 years on the block. Marriage is the longest commitment that we get into. And so at 46 years old, at 17 years, you weren't even at the halfway point. Now, 20 years, 30 years seems like a long time, but when you're talking about to death do you part, that's not a long time. 17 years is not a long time
No.
in to death do us part. You literally now cannot get married for another 10 years when you turn 57, die when you're 97, and they'll say Nick was married for 40 years. And
Hmm.
everybody will say, man, that's a success. He was married for 40 years. That was a success, right? But if we look at it the wrong way, oh, I'm never getting married again. I'm never doing that again. That was
Wow.
the
Yeah.
most craziest time of my life. I'm never giving myself like that again. No, like we can turn the page. We can turn that page is completed. It's not the end of the book. It's not the end of the chapter. That page is completed. And now we're just moving on to the next page.
Yeah, stop writing or stamping the end on that page, right? Like
in the
this
middle
is
of the
it.
book.
That's it for me. Boom.
And we
Like,
do
move
that with
on.
everything. We lose a job, we get laid off, things
Yeah,
don't go right.
stamp.
A company fails. I'm never doing that again. I'm never going through that again. And it's just, you know, if I would have put the end stamp on so many parts of my life, and you said this earlier, our life goes through so many, like, if I would have sat down and 20 years ago, 30 years ago, wrote down how I wanted my life to be, I would have cheated myself because I didn't know enough. I wasn't exposed to enough. I hadn't seen enough. You know, I just recently moved back to Arizona after living on the island of St. Martin for almost 2 years. I would have never wrote that into my life because 20 years ago, I didn't even know St. Martin existed. You understand? I didn't even know it existed. So if I'm writing my dream life, I would have never wrote, oh, live on an island, live on St. Martin, because I didn't even know St. Martin existed. Our best life is so far ahead of us. And the way we get there is just keep evolving, keep walking, keep surrounding ourselves. Like I'll talk to Ryan or I'll talk to you, Nick, and you'll tell me about an experience that you had. And I'm like, oh, I've never had that experience. Let me go experience that. Right? Driving through the mountains of Utah is going to be a total different experience than driving through California or driving through Atlanta or driving through New York. I want to experience it, right? I want to be able to say, I've seen that with my own eyes. And so that's the beauty of this whole idea of always evolving and always being in communities like the Giant community that's going to expose you to different things.
Yeah, and that would be if you were to say my favorite color is red, you might never drive in the mountains. You might never know about an island that you've never heard of. You might never have these experiences because you're so boxed in to that end stamp. This is my life. I can't change it. And then that's what you experience. And the truth is that you are so far beyond that. We all are. We're so far beyond that. We're so far beyond that. There are things we can't even see about our future, things we don't even know about that are available to us if we'll just go out and experience. I love your core analogy. I think it's great. And go out there and get clarity, opportunities, relationships, experiences. Ryan, what came up? I saw you kind of going there.
Yeah. And my internet's a little bit fuzzy. It's been weird, but so if I skip around a little bit, I'm sorry. But what came up too was what we were talking about before the show about give yourself some grace for all of the things and the amazingness that you've created while maybe being a little bit broken, chaotic, messy, whatever you want to call it. I don't believe we're necessarily broken, but some people relate to that. So, but look where we've come on our operating system up to that point where maybe we become conscious to how we've been.
Yeah, Dr. Will, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So Ryan, you know what I always like to say, at this very moment, everyone that's listening to us, at this very moment, you survive what you call your worst day. You survive what you've called your worst experience. Whatever you've called your worst experience, you've won. You've survived it. You're still here. And so when you start looking at that, for me, I started going back in all of my relationships that I thought were bad relationships, whether that was with my mom or my dad. And what I did, and hopefully I'll share this and it'll help somebody, I started looking at all the expectations that I had for people, right? And what I mean by that is every label that we give someone, it comes with expectations. So this is my husband, this is my wife, this is my teacher, this is my pastor, this is my rabbi, this is my friend. Whatever label we give somebody, it comes with expectations. Now, we never check to see if they could live up to those expectations, or even if they're skilled or qualified to live up to those expectations. And I'll give you an example. So me and my mom, we had a rocky relationship. And we had a rocky relationship because I had expectations of her that wasn't fair. I had expectations of her that wasn't fair. In my mind, you're my mom and you should do this and you should be capable of doing this and you should give me this and you're responsible for that. But what I did not do is let me see who this lady is that I'm calling mom. Because once again, we only look at people from the label we give them and the expectations we have for them. I didn't see her as a woman. I didn't see her as a separate woman who had feelings, as a separate woman who had goals and dreams and aspirations of her own life. I only saw her as your number one responsibility is to make me the happiest kid in the world. And if you don't do that, you're a terrible person. But what I began to find out was, wait a minute, my mom at 14 years old ran away from home. I didn't know this. At 16, my mom became a mother. Now, when she became a mother, I didn't think of it as, oh, this is a 16-year-old little girl that still should be playing maybe with dolls and having the best time of her life that now has to be a mother. I just said, well, you shouldn't have had me if you didn't want to have me. That's not my fault, right? I didn't think about all of her dreams, hopes, and visions that she had, you know. So I started to say, Mom, what was your dream when you were 12, when you were 10? What did you want to be? Oh, what was your relationship with your mom? What was your relationship with your dad? And then we went through this series of events that, once again, I didn't take her feelings into account. So in a 3-year span of time, my mom lost her mom, which was my grandmother. The very next year, before that, she lost her first grandbaby, my sister. Her baby died at 4 months. Then her mom died. Then her brother died. Then her fiance died, all within a 3-year span of time. I didn't see it as she lost her mom, her brother, her grandchild, her fiance. I just saw it as, you're still my mom. I don't care about any of that kind of stuff. I want the brand new Jordans.
Wow.
And if you don't buy me the brand new Jordans, you're an awful mom. And so it wasn't until years later where for all these years I had all this animosity toward my mom. It was now I'm like, I don't even know how you didn't, throw me in a trash can. I don't even know how you didn't walk away from all of this. You're jacked up. You were doing the best you could do. And now I had a whole different viewpoint of my mom based on the right expectations. Now, when I looked at a 16-year-old with a baby who just lost her mom, who just lost, all these types of things, a young lady, at 25 who just lost her mom, her brother, her grandbaby, and her fiance, now I look at her in a different way.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that whole perception is everything, because it's from that perception that we create our beliefs, and it's from those beliefs that we create our actions. It's who we be, right? We start to be what we believe. And then from that believing, we take the actions, and that creates our world. And so that world becomes a reflection of what you perceive. And so holding that over somebody, I look at my mom she was mentally ill. My dad had died when I was 2. She was mentally ill. There's 11 kids. It's like part of the story could be, well, I blame her because she wasn't there for me. Yeah, I needed that. As number 9 of 11, here's where the story gets really impactful, right? Let me just tell this story in a way that you feel sorry for me. That's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like the idea here, like what you're offering, is that my mom struggled through abuse. She was mentally ill. She was doing what she could with what she had. I'm lucky she was even around, right? I'm lucky to even have the siblings that I do, who are incredible people. I'm lucky to have them around. I'm getting emotional around this, any one of us could use our story as the end page, any one of us. And what you're offering is go rewrite the perception that you have around that story. Like what was it like for them? Like you're saying, your mom could have thrown you in a trash bag and that would be it. You're lucky to be here, right? But you want to hold an expectation like she needs to be the best mom because she needs to buy you Jordans. If she doesn't, she's a terrible human.
And never thought about what she was going through. Never looked at it I just looked at it from the prism of my eye and how everything she did should benefit me and everything that she does should be surrounded around me, and not realizing like she never went to go sit on anyone's couch to talk this stuff through. She never, And so I'm like you say, man, every time I tell it, I get welled up thinking about the jerk I was, right? The jerk I was. And then once again, having to forgive my own self about being a jerk, because
Right,
I'm talking
yeah.
about this jerk that was 12 years old, the jerk that was 11 years old, the jerk that was 13. That's what you think about when you're 11, 12, or 13. What about me?
Exactly.
What about me? What about me? So I had to forgive myself, about this. And then I had to make the choice. I said, Mom, I don't know how much more time we have together, but I do know it's going to be better than what we had. And so I started off
Yeah.
by saying, Mom, I'm going to call you every Sunday and we're just going to talk. I don't know what we're going to talk about,
Wow.
but we're just going to talk because I want our relationship to be better, and it's going to be better. And in doing that, I found out more about her.
Yeah.
I found out, I found out more about me, and it just put us in a whole better space than when I had these crazy expectations, right?
I think it's beautiful. I mean, what you're offering is that, there's a chance always to rewrite, and you're doing the best you can. We're doing the best we can with what we have, where we're at. Right. So to forgive the judgments, I think of Debbie Roth, and Debbie Roth is one of my, do you know her?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. She's incredible. She works on forgiveness work, and she talks about the forgiving of the judgments that we have. And that's really all it is judgments around the perceptions that we're holding. And we're judging it from the space that we're in. So like at 12 years old, we're going to respond different than we do when we're 20. And at 20, we're going to respond different than when we're 40. And at 60 is going to be totally different. And so to forgive those judgments like you're offering is huge. Because again, like our parents might not have known, but also what did we not know in that space? Like giving grace to that.
Yeah,
What comes up
and,
for you?
and Nick, I just read somebody question, and I don't want to miss it. And they were saying their 12-year-old doesn't have the best perspective. I would offer you this: at 12 years old, my son is 11. He's probably a lot smarter than you give him credit for. And I believe if you would have an honesty conversation with him, and then exposure is huge, right? Once again, we tend to look at life through our lens. We look at it at our lens, and we look at it through our expectations. And one of the things that I always try to remind my son is he lives a wonderful life. And I try to remind him and expose him to let him know this is not everyone's life. There's a whole other world going on, and there's always going to be someone doing better than you. There's always going to be someone less fortunate than you. So to always stay grounded. And so I would offer you is to have an honest, like what we do as parents is we try to protect our kids from the ugly, right? We try to, if my mom would have sat down, I didn't know how hard it was to pay rent and to put food on the table and to get all the electric bills paid. It's extremely hard, and especially if you're doing it by yourself, and especially if you have multiple children, right? If she would have had that conversation, now I would have something to put against those Jordans. I just thought she didn't want to buy me the Jordans. I didn't think, oh wait, Jordans cost $150. Mom, you're making $10 an hour. That's what, 10 hours? 10 hours, 15 hours that you have to work just to buy me one pair of shoes. Well, wait a minute. When my daughter, she's 18, she just left for the Navy, and she keeps calling us and she's saying, I didn't know a bedroom set cost this much. I didn't know cable cost this much. I didn't see, they just think that, since they've been here, they pop up in their room and everything is there. Right?
Yeah.
They don't put any financial cost to it. They don't put a price tag to it. They just, it's here. It's supposed to be. I just eat every day. My son will be driving down the street and he says, oh, Dad, I have a taste for. I'm like, you're 11. What do you mean you have a taste for? Yeah, can we go to this restaurant? And I'm like, well, how do you know? I'll say something like, oh, I don't have any money. Oh, just pull out your card, swipe the card. Well, how do you know the card is attached to any money on the other side? We got it. Don't worry about it. Let's go over here and eat. They don't have an attachment. So I started having these genuine conversations with him, letting him understand like this is what it takes. Like when daddy's out working, this is what generates this, so we can do this. And if daddy doesn't do this, and so now when I say that I'm working, when I'm saying that I'm working, he now appreciates it when I pull away from my work to come play with him for that 15, 20 minutes, because he now begins to, and I'm looking at your beautiful daughter there. I love that type of stuff, right? Because that's what I had to learn, right?
Yeah.
That our families are a part of our business, right? It's like usually, oh my God, I'm podcasting, get away, stay away. But to embrace that, right? To let them see what we're doing, to let them see that I'm not just, out here playing around, that we're really doing something that impacts lives.
Well, I had this thought as you're saying that entitlement. Entitlement's a big thing. We see something, we think we deserve it, not understanding what goes into creating that. And so the idea here is that if I could teach my kids what goes into the creations that they experience, then they can start to do that for themselves, and it eliminates entitlement. It's like, I don't owe you anything. Like we go to Lagoon yesterday and it took quite a bit to pay for those tickets to go to Lagoon. And we go to Lagoon and it's like, Dad, I want to play the games. I want to eat the food. I want to do all these things. And it's like, okay, so how much of this are you going to pay for? Because do you understand what goes into creating what you're experiencing right now? And it's not a shame thing. It's a teaching moment. It's really like, look at what it takes to create the life that you want, and teaching that to our kids. I think that's beautiful. I think I have done that, but not to the degree you're talking about, to where I'm very conscious about it.
Well, and my daughter leaving, so my daughter's 18, my son is 11, so they have a bit of a gap there. So yeah. I always apologize to my daughter, because I always have to say, man, we were practicing on you. Your brother, he's going to have a way better parent, a way better father than you had, because we were practicing on you. We were figuring things out. And even now, like she's been gone for 2 weeks. I can see like, oh, you know what? I need to impress upon my son these lessons. Okay, I see where my daughter, okay, she's a little bit naive over here. I need to make sure I double down on that lesson with my son. So when he gets out there, and then I always tell them both, I say, you guys need to make sure that you stay on this side of the tracks, because this is the only lifestyle you know. So if you get on that other side, you may not be able. I grew up eating peanut butter and jelly and government cheese, and you may not be able to survive. Your palate, my son now, I say, man, you don't like enough stuff to struggle. You know what I mean? He's like, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. Like if I grew up saying I didn't like that, I probably wouldn't have ate. You know what I mean? If I said I didn't like something every time my grandma brought something to the table, I don't know what she was putting in that pot, right? Anything that was left over in the refrigerator went in the pot.
That's how we grew up.
Becomes the new stew.
Yeah. If what is this stew, right? If I grew up saying I don't like what is this stew, I wouldn't have ate. You know what I mean? And so just the luxury of being able to say, I don't like that. I don't like that. I grew up with, then I guess you're not going to eat tonight.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we were ramen noodles. Like, I would pound the ramen noodles, because I could mix like 4 packs and be full and feel like a champion with the food.
For 10 cents, right? For 10 cents a pack, right?
10 cents a pack. But it's like it's beautiful, because like when you say you don't like enough stuff to struggle. Like you don't even know what you don't like, because you haven't experienced enough to know what you really don't like. I try and get my kids to experience foods and music and different things. And man, some of them get really closed off. They're like, I don't like that. Well, you don't even know. You haven't even tried it. You got to try it. I love it. Ramen with butter, my fave.
Yeah, man. And it is. And it's we coming from where we all came from, we work so hard to give our kids these different experiences, but then it's like, oh my God, did we damage them? Because they only really know You know what I mean? Like they only really know the better side of life. They only know, like you say. I remember taking my son to Disneyland, and we're guys, so we're numbers people. We're looking 150 for a ticket before you even walk in the door. It's 500. We haven't even did anything yet, and then they're grabbing at everything. Can I have this stuffed animal? Can I have this cotton candy for $20? And they only eat a piece of the cotton candy, then they want to throw it away, and then you don't want to make the whole experience about money. Like, go pick that cotton candy up. You know what I mean?
You're like, you're gonna eat it.
We went to SeaWorld. This is terrible. Maybe it's not terrible. We went to SeaWorld, and my son was pushing, I want a turkey leg. Those huge turkey legs. He gets the turkey leg, and he takes a bite, and it falls on the floor. Like one bite and on the floor. And my wife at the time looks at him, and she goes, you pick up that like expletives leg and you eat it. And so she made him eat it, all in the name of money. It was like, oh God, is it really all about that? But in a degree, you're trying to teach that lesson of the value of that thing and try not to damage your kids with your views on the costs, right? It's
like our kids don't even have the 3-second rule, right? Dirt don't hurt. God made dirt and dirt won't hurt. They don't even know that, right? Like they don't even. And me and my family, we were just at SeaWorld, right? We just like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we were just at SeaWorld, and you think about that stuff. And to your point, because for me, that's how we grew up thinking about money. Everything was attached to money, right? Stop running in this house before you break something. You know how much that costs? Don't like I look at my son. I'll walk home. I'll come into the house. He's sitting on the couch. He has his laptop in his hand. In his lap, his phone in his hand, the TV, he's watching some YouTuber, right? We weren't even allowed to touch the remote. Remember that? We weren't even allowed to touch the remote. That was a high volume item, right? And I'm looking.
That's worth more than your life. Don't you dare touch that.
Don't touch it, right? And now I look at our kids, where we as parents, we have to evolve, right? Because that's all they know is technology. I remember when my son was 2 years old, and he picked up my phone. And I'm in a glance, and I'm watching him, and I'm getting ready to be that parent. Put that down. Don't touch it. That's an $800 phone, right? And then I watched him, and he wasn't banging the phone. He was striping. And what he was doing was looking for Thomas the Train on YouTube. I don't know how he figured this out. I don't even know to this day how he knew my password or whatever. He's 2 years old. And that moment I realized, he's a hacker. Like that moment I realized I had to become a different parent. Like these are kids growing up with technology. Like they're totally different than us. Like we wouldn't even been allowed to, you remember when cable came out and they had those secret channels and everything, the lock and all that kind of stuff. And so I had to evolve, and I'm still evolving into a parent that is teaching a kid that's growing up in this 21st century social media world. And that's why you can't get stuck. I can't be the parent that I had growing up. We weren't allowed to touch anything. And so it's all about evolving and growing. And it's a magical time.
I want to hit on this too, because some of us didn't get the parenting that we think we needed. And so now as adults, it's our responsibility to be the parents that we never had to ourselves, right? So there's a degree of this, of waking up to how you're showing up in life and growing into it for yourself. Now that you're aware, now you can do something about it. In unconsciousness, it's really hard to do anything. And so there's a space now as an adult that whatever you missed as a kid, whatever was taken, whatever wasn't there, you have an opportunity to teach that to yourself as an adult.
It's almost like you're parenting yourself and parenting them, right? Like everything that I miss, I have to now, the reinforcement, I was, for me personally, I can't remember my dad ever telling me he loved me. So now I have to reinforce that for myself, but at the same time, reinforce it to my kids. And so my kids have probably heard, I love you 8 million times, right? 8 million times. Like we play this game whenever we call each other. If I call my son, before he says yes, he says, love you, got you. And so if you don't say love you, got you, you lost, right? And so it's just my way of making sure when they leave this house that they know for sure. They're not wondering, well, we know he provided for us. We know, he kind of loved us, but I want them to know, for sure. But then I was talking to my daughter and I asked her, I said, would you rather me tell you I love you, or would you rather me tell you I'm proud of you? And she says, I would rather you tell me you're proud of me, because you're supposed to tell me you love me. So I already don't put that in the books. You're supposed to love me. You're my dad. But if you tell me that you're proud of me, it means that you see me. It means that you acknowledge what I've done. It means that you appreciate the person I'm becoming. And so I had to learn that, right? I thought love was the whole thing, but then I had to, I remind her all the time of how proud I am of her, I see her as an adult, like I said, she just turned 18 and it's now another phase of parenting. She just joined the Navy and she comes home on break and it's 11 o'clock at night. And she walks up to me and her mom and she's like, all right, I'm getting ready to go out. And I'm stunned. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm supposed to say a dad something. Hold on. What do you mean you're about to go out? And she's like, oh yeah, Raina's about to come pick me up. And so I have to evolve now as a father that's parenting a young adult. Not a father that's parenting this little girl, even though I see her in my eyes as my little baby. And then I know all the dangers and all the goblins and goblins that's out there in the world that I'm trying to protect her from, that I have to just sit on my couch and just pray.
Every boy.
Yeah. Every boy is a goblin, right? And so I'm sitting on the couch, like just praying that we put enough in her, right? That we put enough in her that she makes the right choices. But then I have to remind her as well, hey, even if you make a mistake, we're always going to be here. We're only a phone call away. Don't ever be too embarrassed to call. Don't ever be ashamed. There's nothing you could ever do that would ever make me stop loving you. There's nothing that you could ever do that would make me stop supporting you. And so it's that harmony of the relationship that you're looking for at all times.
How do you find that balance? How do you not go overboard, like Diana Strong was asking about, like too much, like letting them, live life and be free, but then holding those reins just a little bit so don't, I don't know.
Man, it's tough. Once again, one of my struggles, I'll just be transparent. One of my struggles is with my son, because for me in my life and the environment that I grew up in, I stopped being a kid at 5 years old. Like I'm fully engaged with helping mom pay rent. I'm fully engaged in trying to at 5. So when I see my son at 11 still playing with Legos and still playing as a kid, I don't even know when you stop being a kid. I'm asking myself, like, how long do you play with toys? Because I don't even know, right? And so it's
I'm still doing it. Yeah.
And so I talk to, if I see someone else, once again, I'm a learner. So if I see someone else doing something at a high level, at a good level, I'm always, hey man, I see you did that parenting thing pretty good. What did you do that, I see your daughter still wants to engage with you and she's 27. What did you do? I'll never forget. I was talking to a good buddy of mine, and he was here in Arizona, and his whole family came for vacation. So they're all here on vacation, and I had an opportunity to meet his father. And I'm talking to his father, and I said, this is amazing. You have all your kids here. You have all your grandkids here, and they look like they want to be here. No one looks like they're upset, like they got dragged here. How did you create this? And he says, well, as a dentist, my time was very challenged, but he said this to me, and I'll never forget this. He said, I never added anything to my life that was going to compete with my family's time. So I knew I already had a demanding job. So I wasn't, he said, so for a long time, I didn't golf when my kids were little because I didn't want anything to compete with my family's time. And that's what I tried to do to make myself available to my family, because it's changing all the time. Like my daughter's, it went by so fast. Just like yesterday, she was like your daughter that I'm seeing right here, and now she's this, semi-adult. And so it's always learning. It's always evolving. There's never one size fits all. All your kids are different. Like even though they're growing up in the same house, they're hearing the same thing, but they're hearing it differently. So I may say one thing and both of them hear it differently. So now I have to adjust to how my son heard that.
Wait, so they're humans. You're talking about humans.
It goes back to the labels again, right? It goes back to the labels. You're my son. And if you're my son, You're supposed to listen to me. I'm your daddy. But at the same, he's a little human. He's a
Yeah.
little human that has his own feelings, that has his own ideas. My
Yeah.
daughter, the same thing. I projected all of these ideas on her. Like, this is what I want you to do. When you graduate high school, you're going this route. So she messed all of that up. She graduated a year early. So I thought I had another year, right? I'm thinking in my mind, I have another year to have these conversations with you. She's so advanced that she graduates a year early. She's like, I'm out of this piece. Then I'm like, okay, what college are you going to? Nah, don't want to do the college thing. I'm going to the Navy. Navy, where did that come from? It came from her being a young adult, making her own choices. So now me and her mom have to adjust and throw all of our little ideas out the window and say, oh, you're living in Virginia now. We're in Arizona. We didn't plan for you to be 8,000 miles, 3,000 miles
Yeah. Oh,
away.
you're gonna do you now, huh?
You're gonna do you.
Yeah.
You're gonna do you now, right? Oh, you're gonna adult your own life now.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
now that shifts for us. Christmas, Thanksgiving. I was just telling my wife, what are you going to do when she says, Mom, I'm not coming home. I'm going to go over Bobby's for Christmas. How are we going to adjust to that? How are we going to adjust
Bobby?
to who? The other day I call her Friday night. In my mind, it's 8 o'clock here in Phoenix. It's 11 o'clock over in Florida where she was. In my mind, it's 11 o'clock. She's getting ready for bed. I'm calling my little daughter to say good night. I call her and I say, hey, how you doing? What you up to? Oh, I'm getting ready to go out. Oh my God, what do you mean you're getting ready to go out? It's 11. Who you going out with? Dad, you don't know these people. Don't worry about it. I'm like, oh my God, what do you mean don't worry about it, right? But you got to, like Philadelphia said, you got to trust the process, right? You got to trust the process.
Wow.
And so I'm waiting for that. All right, text me in the morning. Let me know you're up. Let me know you're home. Let me know you're okay, And so I have to adjust.
Has nothing to do with her. That has nothing to do with her. It's all in here within you, right?
All of my fears have nothing to do with her. My fears have nothing to do with her, right? And so it's not her problem. And that's usually how we try to make our problems, our fears, other people's problems. I have this fear and you need to worry about it. I have this fear and you need to deal with it. And that's not how it goes.
Man, that is impactful right there. Yeah. Dr. Will, I could go for hours with you. Just in
I just saw we hit an hour. I was like, where did that hour go, man?
Yeah, it's if you were to give one, and this is the question that people will struggle with. Some like it, some don't. But if you were to give a piece of wisdom, let's say you were starting over, you were going on this journey, you could go back in time and talk to Will, and you could have this conversation, impart one piece of wisdom for your life journey that lay ahead of you. What would you share?
Yeah, the simple thing is that your life is your life. Your life is your life, and you have the power to create whatever type of life you want. Once again, I know we get bogged down with other people's ideas, and sometimes our parents say you should be this, and society says you should be that. But you get to create your own life. And even if you're at a point right now of transition, let me offer this wisdom to you. You get to transform your life if you want to. A lot of times we get stuck because we think everybody knows me as this. Everybody knows me as Nick the this, or Ryan the this, or the Will this. But guess what, guys? This is what I always like to remind myself. Nobody knows me. Nobody knows me. Nobody knows me. I want you guys to think, as many people know you, nobody knows you. You could know 1 million people, and there's still 7.8 billion people that don't know you. And so you can go over into a whole new world and nobody knows you. Like many of the people listening today probably never heard of Dr. Will before today. Never knew me, right? Never knew me. 3 months ago, we didn't know each other. We didn't know each other existed. Ryan, Will, and Nick, we didn't know each other existed, right? All doing amazing things, and we hadn't even crossed each other's world. But this is what it tells me. We didn't need to cross each other's world before to accomplish everything that we have done. But now that we are together, what can we create together?
Man, yeah, 99.999% of the world doesn't know you.
You like Nick, you can go literally across town and create a whole new life.
It's true.
And nobody, I could go from Phoenix to Scottsdale and nobody would know me.
And yet I live my life as though like I've got this importance in what I'm doing in my space. And it's like literally I could go next door and like literally
have a whole new experience,
new neighborhood, and be a completely different life. Who are you? I don't know. Let's create it. Let's create
it, man. Create it, man. This is wonderful, guys. Thank you so much, man.
So, Ryan, did you have some additional thoughts?
I just sitting here thinking and going through this, that piece of wisdom right there can shift your entire story. You right now, you can tell yourself something completely different, start living it, start being it. And I mean, I've got a smile on my face, like my heart is happy. You don't have to live into the narrative of whatever you think everyone else thinks about you.
Yeah,
nobody knows you, man.
They probably don't even care. So go do something different. Like right now, just make up whatever you want to do, and just be it, do it, have it.
We could literally get off of this podcast and say we want to be the 3-car wash guru guys, right? Set up a website, start doing a podcast, and tell everybody this is the best way to wash your car. And people would feed into that. All the car enthusiasts would start to follow us, and we could come up. This solution right here is the best thing for your upholstery, right? It doesn't matter. You can create it, man.
So I'm looking at this term right here. We could play with this for just a minute. We got a bunch of nobodies.
Nobody.
I love it, man.
Yeah. So we think our friends think they know us. So there are nobodies. But man, nobody knows us. What a powerful and empowering space to operate from is nobody knows you. So make it up. Create it. Why not create it? I'm impacted by this message today deeply. I look at it. I'm grateful that we met. I'm grateful for Steve Hardison for arranging this. We look at the creation of the giants and the smalls is for everybody. That's an internal journey. Being a giant is an internal journey, just like what you just described. It's an internal journey. It's a series of choices over time that add up, and there's no end to it. That's the one thing is there's no pinnacle to climb. There's multiples, and you'll get to one, you'll find another one, you'll find another purpose. And that's what I love about you is you've bent down the path of having success, and then you're rewriting your story. Like nobody knows me. Time to move. Nobody knows me.
Can I just say, I know we're so much over time, but because you just said about the giants, right? And once again, that word, usually when we think giant, right, it has a connotation. But as you were saying that, to the ant, a snail is a giant.
Yeah.
To the ant, a snail is a giant. So I don't want people to think that when we say giant, that you have to be Microsoft, that you have to be Apple, that you have to be Amazon. To the ant, the snail is a giant. I bet you an ant looks at a snail like, oh my God, the world is about to end. Right?
Like, don't step on me.
Don't step. But then we look at a snail and the snail is looking at us like, but then we look at the elephant and the elephant is like, and so giants come in all sizes. I don't want people to think that being a giant means you have to be doing something world shattering, that you have to be doing something that gets you on the front of Time magazine. You can be a giant right in your community. You can be a giant right in your house. The two gentlemen that I'm looking at, you're giants in your home for recreating a family structure for your kids. You're giants. Just recreating your family story that your grandchildren are going to have better grandparents than probably you had, right? That's a giant move. Like, I'm super excited. I'm not a grandfather yet, but I'm super excited about the grandfather I'm going to be because I never had one. So I'm super excited about becoming a grandfather because I'm changing the narrative. So I know my daughter, my son, they can say, I'm getting ready to go over grandma's house. I'm getting ready to go over granddaddy's house. I've never been able to say that to my kids, but I get to create that for my grandchildren.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna put this show on repeat. I'm gonna go back through it and watch it again. I've got people I want to share this with already, you know, because the reality is that there are so many ways to be a giant. Like you just said, it's not social stature. It's not physical stature. It's not financial stature. It's doing it in your own way and becoming a giant in your own world. And for some people that could be enough as, you know, like quitting smoking or doing anything like that. That's a giant move, because now you're making an impact in your life, and you've become a giant to your old self who used to smoke. You know, it's like, there's so many ways to do it. I'm grateful that you hit on that. Now I'm going to ask you one more question here. Is there anything else that you feel like you need to share today?
And the last thing is, it's about this community, right? I went through the community. I love the community. For those of you that have really not dialed in, and I'm talking about connecting to this community, and Ryan and Nick didn't ask me to say this. I'm saying this because I know the power of community. This is a giant community, no pun intended. It's just good-hearted people. Like, for the rest of my life, I just want to be surrounded by good-hearted people. And as I went through your group and looked at your page, it's good-hearted people. And a lot of times we don't even avail ourselves to that because we don't even know how, right? We don't even know how to be open to good-hearted people. But this is an amazing community. So tap in. Ryan and Nick are doing the heavy lifting. They're doing the hard work, right? They're vetting all the people that they bring to the community. So if they bring somebody to your community, you can know that they've already been vetted, that it's good soil, it's good ground. And so if you're not super connected to this group, just get super connected. And if this is not the group, just go find the group, but you gotta, life is meant to be done in community. That's how life is designed. It's meant to be done in community. And if you can find a community like the Giants, tap in, guys.
That's perfect. Great way to end the show. Dr. Will, thank you so much for your wisdom, for who you are.
You for your time, man.
Yeah.
That was impactful. Lots of people, lots of comments. I'm going to go back through and listen to it and check out these comments, because it was impactful for a lot of people, and it will continue to be impactful. So we appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah,
appreciate you guys as well, man.
We're right at an hour and 11 minutes.
Yeah.
And we're going to wrap up the show there to keep it there, because
hang tight after the show.
So thank you for watching. Make it a giant day. We'll see you in the next video.